Yeah, just grab it. There you go. All right. Oh, man, this is going to be great. Nicole's ready. There it is. Nicole's strapping them on. Headphones right there, ready to go. All right, here. All right, there. You got it? All right.
I'm still working on this, man.
There it is. She's got the headphones ready to roll. Man, okay. All right. I've been talking over the intro. It's fine. Here we are, talking Winter with Swinter. This, ladies and gentlemen,
Special guest.
this is going to be a show right here. Let me tell you what. We've got Ken, me, we got Adam, we got Jason, and the lovely and talented Mrs. For anybody that's curious, Mrs. Nicole Bogeman right there. There she is. Oh.
Good morning.
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. God. Anyway.
She just got here. She just woke up.
That's right. Bert decided to take off. He's working. Said he got stuff to do. So we moved Nicole's headphones over there.
She's mic'd up.
She's ready to roll. I mean, she can figure. What are you doing?
I need to turn it so I can sit and actually still do some work
Well,
while y'all
just
talk.
adjust it.
I'm trying.
You got to do the knob thing.
Would you
Grab
like
that
to come
knob.
help me?
No, just because.
I'm a poor little girl. Can't do anything.
You gotta slide
Oh.
that shaft over.
Wow.
Yep. See, there's these little balls on the. So no, see it over there. No, I'm not even kidding. It just is.
Shh.
It's fine.
I can't
You got
move
it?
through because it's connected here. I need to disconnect for a second.
No, Adam's got you. All right, there. Hi, Jason.
Hey.
So you know what we're gonna talk about?
I'm not sure, but can I give you a topic?
I mean, maybe.
How about material procurement to restock or not late in the season?
Okay, we're gonna talk about part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about whether or not to restock. Yeah, at
Or
least
not.
That's what we hinted. Yeah, or not. Whether or not would be
Thank you.
not. Oh, there you go. You got it. Adam's such a gentleman.
How's that feel?
Nice. You can't get it hard, man. Stiffen it up.
Oh, send your kids away.
I may have some.
Nicole's here.
I may have some follow-up work I needed to do as well.
Whew, man. All right. So yeah. All right. So anyway, so here we go. All right. So last year,
What's on the dock?
right, the end of the 2022-2023 season.
Yeah.
At least here in St. Louis, the last event we had was January 31st-ish, right?
Yeah.
We had
right at the very end of January.
Yeah, we had nothing February or March. The same thing happened at about our same area of the country east, right? So it was at latitude. Oh my God.
Longitude goes this way.
Yeah, latitude is horizontal. Yeah, so about the same latitude on east had kind of the same weather. I'm pretty sure, and so that's tricky because you get to your January 31st. Well, yeah, you're going to load your bins because my God, there's still a couple months of winter left,
Right.
And we got hung with it all, right? And so you had a ton of material hanging out all summer that you got to deal with. So now here we are. We're February 19th ish, and it's winter's certainly not over, but it's going to be pretty warm the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, something we were talking about around the office today is whether or not we should restock and why. And so I thought, let's talk about that on the podcast because that's something to consider, something that you want to think about. So, if this doesn't have to be really super complicated, right? But it's just something to think about. But hang on a second. Do you still restock things or do you not? So, some of the things that we tossed around here were, number one, how much do you need? I mean, if you're going to have 3, 4, 5 rounds of material on the ground, and where are you getting that material from? A lot of contractors that do snow, they don't inventory their own material. They're going to pick up that material from the material supply, yard when they go to work. So they're buying it by the scoop, during storm or before or after, things like that. Other times contractors have that inventory and they load themselves, right? So they carry that inventory cost as part of the way they do business. So right out of the gates there, if you're in the first category, right, where you're buying your material from a material storehouse of some kind, I would listen into this episode because you're going to hear what they're considering, whether or not they should keep that inventory around because, they don't want to carry that inventory over the summer just to be convenient for you. Right. So as you get towards the end of the year, that's when you start to realize, sometimes it's harder to find de-icing chemicals than it is at the beginning of the year because people don't want to restock that. They don't want to be hung with it all year long.
Right.
Similarly.
And most of those places, I would say probably greater than 99%, they also have rock and mulch and compost and things, and they would really like to get the salt out of those bins in preparation for the spring rush on those other items.
Yep, 100%. So so that's something where once you get to this point of the year, you want to start thinking about if you get another storm, do you have the material on hand, or does your material vendor have the material on hand? Right. So for us, we are a wholesaler and retailer of de-icing materials. We sell, bulk salt and bag product and everything. And so there's a lot of contractors that depend on us to have that material. Now, difference with us and say a landscape supply house, like you were talking about, we don't need to bring in mulch. We don't need to bring in gravel. We're not bringing in, fancy stones or anything like that. All we do is snow. So the salt that's in our bins at the end of the year is still there come springtime. So we're a little different monster, but that's something that you want to be thinking about is if your salt vendor is a landscape supply house and they need that bin space for something summertime related, it may very well be likely that they're not going to have a huge inventory of de-icing materials when you get into February.
But if they do, one thing that you can look at if you're planning ahead, which some businesses do, some don't. You can be looking ahead for next year, and because they want to make that space, you might be able to broker a deal to where you can get a better pricing right now. So looking at your overhead costs, if you plan ahead, like we talk about in many of our podcasts, is preparation, what goes into the storm, what goes into everything that happens. Just being able to be prepared and be educated on your salt prices throughout the year because they can change.
Yeah, so you're saying, so if you've got, Bob's Landscape Supply and that we're getting into February, things are getting warm, Bob's got a big old salt pile there and he needs somewhere to go with mulch, maybe go over and talk to Bob and say, hey, how'd you like to offload that stuff? I'll take it from you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair.
As long as you have a place to store it.
Well, that's called being proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be ready for that. Yep. So, and there's something that I in my travels in talking with contractors that I've been kind of surprised by was my assumption was that that when you get to be what I'm going to call a bigger contractor, right? So your revenues for snows are into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, that everybody is managing their own salt piles, right? That at that point you're no longer buying salt by the scoop from a retailer, when it snows. And I was wrong. I mean, there are companies out there that are doing millions of dollars of snow revenue, and while they have some of their own salt on very small piles, they don't have large depots where they run all of their own material out of. And a big part of that is their shop is very far away from where their work is. So it doesn't make any sense for a truck to drive all the way from where the work is back to the shop to load a V-box and then head back to the property. Instead, even though they could get it, inventorying their own salt is, a quarter to half of what they would pay for at retail, the drive time on the driver is what makes up that difference. So they're paying 2 or 3 times more per ton for salt, but they don't have the windshield time on their drivers. And it's like, okay, well that makes sense, and if the properties that you're servicing are all, 5 acres in size or less, for some companies it's, like most of what we do is bigger than 5 acres, right. So for us, 5 acres is a very small property. Whereas for a lot of contractors, 5 acres is massive, right? Yeah. So if you've got properties that are smaller than 5 acres, chances are good you don't have salt bins all over the place. You don't have some place that's got a skid steer on site for plowing that you can use it for loading, and it's just set up and ready to go, so you can route yourself that way. So you have to find somewhere else to buy that material from. So this time of year, you may be in a position where, okay, you're going to let your own piles go down to nothing and just buy the rest of the year, you're going to buy retail. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So with that, something to think about is talking to those retailers and saying, hey, you going to have enough salt if it snows again? Because like we were talking about in the last episode, being proactive and being prepared is a big deal.
Right.
Something that we see this time of year is, well, actually Saturday, 2 days ago, day after the storm, I got an email from a guy. I'm going to send it to you, Jason, later. Okay. But this guy, he wanted to know if he could pick up. He wanted 12 tons of salt. He was going to show up with a dump trailer, get 6 tons first trip, 6 tons second trip, and he wanted to come out of the shop and pick it up. And he wanted to do it on Sunday, and so I called him and I said, hey, I don't recognize your name. I didn't recognize the guy's name at all. Turned out he was friends with one of our subcontractors, and the place that he normally buys salt from is out or not answering the phone or whatever the case was, where he normally buys salt couldn't take care of him. So he wanted to come to us because he knew we had it. Well, so part of the issue with that, guys, is if you're buying, if you're out purchasing salt as cheap as you possibly can, right? So you found somebody that bought a barge, or they've got 2 barges worth of salt, and they're going to make a little bit of money on it. So they're super cheap. But then when they're out, they're out. Well, here's what's happened. When you show up then and you want to buy salt from somebody else that is thinking ahead and is prepared and is taking care of business and is in it not for a quick buck, but to support you. Well, now all of a sudden you show up and you say, "Oh, well, I was paying." What did he say? Nicole, do you remember what he said he was paying?
Like $65.
Yeah, he says he's like,
no way.
I know he was full. Yeah, he's like, yeah. So I normally buy salt for like $65 or $67 a ton from this guy over here or whatever, and well, I can't get a hold of him. So I hear you guys have got salt though, and it's like, and what I wanted to say to the guy was, oh, okay, so I think you're lying to me about the price you're paying anyway. Number one,
certainly.
Which, yeah, there's no way. And 2, what's happened is you've got this super low price that was available to you when it was convenient for the vendor. Well, now that the vendor's out, you want me to match that price? Dude, it's not not how that works.
There's a convenience factor in there. That's
right. So then when I told them, what our retail price was, which, I mean, our retail, if you just show up to buy salt, our retail price is astronomical, which is, whatever, that's fine.
It's fair for what it is.
For what it
you're
is,
unprepared.
It's fair.
We are prepared.
Exactly. So,
convenience factor.
So then he calls me back. He's like, "Oh, well, I got another guy out in St. Charles. So if you're not from the St. Louis area, his shop was where he said he was hauling the salt to was in Maplewood, so 10 minutes from here, right. Tops. So then he says, "Oh, well, I can get salt from a guy in St. Charles for," and again, it was a lot less than what we were charging. But then you got to drive an hour to go get it, get loaded in an hour back. So you got 4 hours of windshield time to save you, I don't know what it was, $15 or $20 a ton. What?
It was 115.
Oh, okay. So whatever. So it was like, it's like there again, it's like, okay, well, so I said, "Oh, good. You should go buy it there. Nice job." And so it's one of those things where as you look at your restock, I guess where I'm going with this is if you're always looking for the absolute cheapest price on salt you can possibly get, you are going to miss the opportunity to build a relationship with a vendor that will be there to help you when you need it.
Right.
Right. So if you're shopping the lowball cheap guys who are going to run out at some point,
right.
What happens when you show up back at the front door of the guy that actually has salt, because they're a responsible vendor that has the right amount of material there to take care of their customers. When you show up and want salt, well, now you're an added burden to that vendor. So like for us, we know how many customers we have. We know how much salt we have to have for our operation. We know how much salt our customers need for their operations. And I think we've got 100-ish contractors buying salt from us.
That's a lot of salt. How do we track all that?
I would say about 100 outside of our use, about 100 customers.
Yeah. So,
that are salt only customers.
Yeah. That are buying material from us. And so we know what their usage is.
How?
And so I'm getting there.
How do you track that?
I'm getting there. Is it?
That's a lot.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I like those shameless plugs.
So we know what we need to have for us and for our customers. When you show up and say, "Oh, hey, guess what? I need salt now." Well, okay, you're not factored into that mix, right? So of course we factor in some of that, But as we get towards the end of the year, other people start running out. Now all these guys show up and want salt. That's why it's so expensive, is because instead of hitching your wagon into their wagon train early and saying, yeah, I'm going to buy all my salt from you guys. Yes, I understand you're $5 or $10 or $20 more a ton. Okay, well, understand what we're talking. $20 a ton isn't that much money. If you think about, how much, how many acres that covers. I mean, to not have to drive an hour to go get it. I mean, that's worth every penny. So I guess where I'm going with that is as you're shopping vendors, find somebody that is going to be able to take care of you and get with them early in the year. Now, Adam, to answer your question.
Great. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, I know. All right. You ready?
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
The SG Advantage system, it does have inventory tracking and inventory management in there. So for us, we have, what do we have? 6 primary locations?
7.
Seven. So we got 7 locations that are primary locations in St. Louis Metro, and then we've got another half a dozen secondary locations
and tertiary.
There you go with that goddamn word. Anyway, yes, and then we have tertiary locations. So we're able to put all of every location where we keep material is all in the system with what the inventory count that's there. And then as loads are taken out of those locations, they get logged, so we can we can see exactly how much of what product we have at what locations. We can see, restock orders. We can see how much material needs to go where. I mean, if you have multiple areas where you're keeping material, or you sell de-icing materials out of multiple locations, and you have a problem tracking inventory, that's enough reason to take a look at the system. It's very, very cool how that works. But nonetheless, it's something where understanding what that is a big deal. So the question of the day is to restock or not to restock, right?
The other thing that I like about it is when you're talking with clients, those are questions that come up because they say, hey, in the past I've had contractors that, they tell me they're going to do this job, and you get to the end of the year and they've run into those situations where, hey, I ran out of salt, I can't get salt or this and that. You can basically show them, hey, this is how we track it. This is why I can show you why we're going to have enough salt and material to provide for your services. You don't have to worry about us running out with past people, whatever, because we're prepared.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
that's fair.
we have all that information to where you can help educate your customer, and by educating your customer, you're helping them and able to be a better partner for you.
Well, and the other thing, so on that note, and whether it's, and again, the purpose of this podcast isn't to turn into a sales pitch for SG Advantage. Shameless plug.
Shameless.
But at the same time, it's something to give you some stuff to think about. So whether you're using SG Advantage software or something else, one of the advantages to having a good systems and good software in place is it gives you the ability to give your customer something to ask your competitors, right? So let's say they're using XYZ tracking software, that it's the software is exactly the same whether you're doing snow removal or you're doing pest control services, or you're changing filters in your air conditioner, or whatever. When you pop in and say, hey, our software tracks snow specific things like de-icing materials, it keeps track of things like that are very specific for snow. That's kind of a big deal. So
well, even like as you say, sales pitch. I wouldn't even say it's a sales pitch to some degree, because I surf the blogs and Facebook, and
you're on the interwebs.
I'm on the interwebs.
All the Twitters.
Oh yeah, I check some of that stuff out. And something I see a lot is people will be like, hey, how do I bid this property? Or their questions are just so random that I feel like they should know it. And you don't even have to, I'm not trying to sell the software here, but if you had it in front of you, you wouldn't ask those questions. You wouldn't get the 50 comments of, hey, I bid it at $50. I bid it at $50,000, because you'd have all that information in front of you.
You know what I love is the answer is like, if you have to ask, you have no business bidding that property.
Right. Yeah.
Which there's a little truth in that, I think.
There's a little truth in that, except for everybody was there once.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And those guys that are saying you have no business bidding that property if you don't know, the very first year they were out doing snow, they didn't know how to bid a property either.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
So instead of being so condescending, maybe lending a helpful ear or a helpful comment would maybe be a little bit better for everybody.
I think that's beneficial because the second highest question is, how do I get in front of this person? How do I compete with the big people? You know, the nationals, or maybe it's just the big contractor in their town. You know, I think one of the big differences is they have something to offer. They're educating their customer. If you can educate your customer, I learned this from the landscape side of things because I was in that business, in the snow side of things, and it's just building relationships. If you can be there for the customer and educate them, they're going to come back to you. They're going to turn to you. They're going to, you know, it's that simple.
Well, I think there's a difference between, you know, the everybody has worked with a contractor that is knowledgeable, that is experienced, and that can provide you as a customer with solid, sound advice and the confidence to believe that the work that's being done is being done efficiently, is being done properly, is being done by somebody that's conscientious and cares.
Right.
And everybody's worked with a contractor that's just a dirtbag.
Yep.
That doesn't give a shit about you or your property. They're just in there for the paycheck. They're going to do the very bare minimum, and they just want to make the money. That's it.
They're there for the income and not the outcome.
100%. And and we talk about that a lot, you know, and in terms of your staff and your employees, I think that I think the income and outcome conversation is more applicable to employees.
Yeah.
But I think that when you're talking with a customer, to add to your point, is that the customer is used to talking to contractors.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's their job for the most part is getting bids on things. And so if you can show up and have some added value, you know, you can say, hey, this, you know, we care about you and your property. Like, hey, you know, I'm looking at this, you know, now instead of seeing, storm drains that go to, concrete, drain, what am I trying to say here? Not culverts, concrete, pipes
Right.
where the storm water is diverted directly to the sewer system. Mm-hmm. What we see a lot now are, there's essentially cuts in the curb where the storm water goes into a detention pond where it slowly meters out. Right. So you have something like that and you go, oh, I see the vegetation you have growing in this detention pond. Our material is going to kill everything that's alive in there. Is it important to you that stays living? Because if it is, we need to figure out what we're going to do about that.
Right.
Those kind of conversations are something that really bring a lot of added value to your customer because you're not just there for the money. You're there to build that relationship.
Right.
Which has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not to restock depots, but it's a good point.
And there are customers who are salt only material only customers who have come to me this year and said, you know what, your price is a little bit higher than it was last year, but I'm sticking with you because I know that during every event, your depots are open. I can pull up and I can get salt, and you're not going to turn me away.
Yep. Probably.
Well, and I'm always careful to say, well, we may not run out, but we may have to turn you away.
Right.
Because if we get to a point where we only have enough left to service our properties, then that's what we're going to do.
You bring up a good point, though, with the bioretentions, because there's BMP reporting that has to be done every spring.
What the hell is BMP reporting?
It's basically for your bioretentions off your parking lots with your rainwater and such. A lot of these guys that are doing snow and landscaping that rely on both of that, that's just another way that they can educate their customer and say, hey, you know what? I don't think we need to use bulk rock salt. We need to use a treated material, and here's why. And here's why your cost is different, because if we don't, like you said, all that runoff's going to go down in there. It's going to kill it. And then the next year, if there's no vegetation to absorb all that, they're going to get a fine. And then, it may generate some revenue on the landscape side, but you can kind of counterbalance that because they're not going to want to keep replacing that every year. You may lose a customer by not educating them.
They're only going to get a fine until the Great Revolution of 2025.
I will say, though, not all cities and states are up on their regulatory stuff, but I mean MSD and St. Louis. Yeah. They are.
I got a fun Metropolitan Sewer. So our sewer district here.
What is it?
The Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District?
No, I know what that is. What is your story?
The story is pretty good.
Would that be weird if I start talking like this from now on?
Not ASMR.
Problem solved. I just muted Adam's mic. See, you're muted.
Mercedes.
No. Okay, so the Mercedes story.
Hey,
okay,
what videos have you been watching?
Okay, hang on. Have you guys seen the? So there's like some ASMR thing with some chicks like Mercedes, and then she like scrapes on something,
And then like fingernails are
I've
like,
only seen them make fun of them.
okay, yeah, and then some dude is like in the desert, and he's got a Chinook or something. He's like Chinook, and he like punches the side of the helicopter. Right? Okay, so we were in we went to Kansas City 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago. Anyway, the courtesy car at the airport was a Mercedes, right? It was
Nice.
It was super, super nice. And so we got in and I'm like, Mercedes. And I started like scratching on stuff. It was hilarious. But anyway, it's because we're completely out of our league there. But anyway, whatever. So no, so I was meeting
you're
with
definitely a truck guy.
100%. Ford. Well, I mean, I'm a Ford truck guy, so it's like the nicest of the possible trucks.
It is. I love that they
Yeah.
give you the option with the heated tailgate. It's good.
I don't have a heated tailgate.
Yes, you didn't. Yours didn't come factory with it.
No, I mean, no. Are you serious? Is a heated tailgate really a thing?
Yeah, for the Fords.
No, it's not.
When you're when you're broke down,
No, it's not.
keeps your hands warm when you're pushing it.
Okay, there you go. There you go. I walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, fix or repair daily. Fucked on race day. I get it. It's fine. Anyway,
Hey, watch
What?
the language, boy.
no, I said it really, really, really fast.
First on race day.
The negative
I know.
connotation is different.
I
It's
know.
fine. Anyway, so that was MSD. So I get a call. We had a salt pile, and there was a mall here that's roughly 60 acres of parking or so that we serviced, and we had a pretty good sized salt pile there. And it had rained, and the tarp had come off, and so there was a little snail trail of salt over to the sewer. And I got a call from the sewer district, who was, this was a problem, right?
Yeah.
And so we went out there and met with him, and he says, hey, this is a problem. And I said, okay, well, tell me about it. So he tells me all about what the problem is. And I said, okay, so we got to get a cover on it. I get it. He says, yeah, well, I think this pile needs to get out of here. I said, well, yeah, well, okay, well, hang on a second. So you see the pile there? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. Do you think that this storm drain here goes to a different sewer outlet than all of the storm drains on the mall, or do they all go to the same spot? He goes, oh no, they all go to the same spot. I'm like, okay, so there's a network of pipes underground, and all of these sewers at the mall all essentially go to one pipe, and it all goes to one place. He goes, yeah, it runs to a stream, and there's fish and wildlife in there, and this isn't, we have to fix this runoff problem. I said, okay. Do you think that it would be an astronomically high number if 2 tons of salt dissolved from this pile and ran into that sewer right there? He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm saying 2 tons, 4,000 pounds of salt dissolved and ran into that sewer. Do you think that would be an astronomical number, or is that about what you think it is? He goes, oh, well, yeah, I don't think it'd be that high. I said, no, the whole season. Let's say whole season here. You think it'd be that high? 4,000 pounds. He says, no, I don't think you'd get, I don't think you get to 4,000. No, I said, what do you think? Half of that? He goes, man, I don't know. That seems awful high. I'm like, okay, so let's say less than a couple thousand pounds is going to go in the sewer. He's like, yeah, I think that sounds right. I said, okay. You see all that parking over there? He says, yeah. I said, okay. Application rate is just under a half a ton per acre. Let's use some round numbers. This is 60 acres of parking. So let's say we're using 20 tons per application. Where does that all go? And he kind of looks at me and go, yeah, that's one application. Most storms will do a pre-treat, and then we plow, and then we treat it again. So we're talking 40 tons per event on a small event. How many events do we have a year? 8 or 10? Maybe more? He goes, okay. He starts doing that. I said, yeah. How big of a problem is this little trail here? And he kind of looks at me and goes, man, I'm going to keep a tarp on this, but I don't know that this is the kind of thing you want to run up the flagpole, right? Like, I mean, I understand I got to put a tarp on it, but I mean, on the whole, is this a big deal? And the look on the guy's face was like I just smacked his mama. Because on one hand, he was super pissed at me because salt was running into the drains. And then you provide a little context.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Educating the customer.
and all of a sudden it just wasn't a problem at all.
Right.
And so to your point exactly, Adam, is 9 times out of 10, people have no idea how to relate what's happening on the site to the bigger picture. They see this one thing that's a problem, and they want that fixed right now.
It's kind of a perspective thing. I made a post on LinkedIn about my newly found perspective this past, I don't know, week or so, whenever it was, when I got to fly in an airplane for the first time.
You sure did.
With this guy here, Ken Bogerman.
That was me.
He was my pilot.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never flown before, and it was a cool experience. And I could tell you all about it, but I say all that to say it really gave me a new profound perspective to be able to see, you know, I like maps. I can look at Google Earth and stuff, but to see it in real time, and it gives you a different perspective. So whether you're dealing with clients, dealing with life, dealing with family, try to think outside the box. You know, it's not just a one-way highway. You know, being empathetic of your clients, your contractors, your workers, you know, and knowing what the struggles they go through, because maybe you were there one time, you know, it helps you to become a better leader and just a good person, really. You want to build relationships, whether you're in the snow business, the landscape business, the power washing business, who knows, your stockbroker. Everything you do, you're building relationships.
You know, stockbrokers are those assholes. They've got like multiple $1 million homes.
Multiple $1 million.
You can't
Lawyers.
trust those guys.
Not necessarily homes, just properties.
Lawyers, litigation, slip and falls. Man, we won't even get into that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, that's a good point, though, man. I mean, having perspective is a big deal. But for right now, we're going to let these fine people go about their day. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be great. In the meantime, I'm Ken Bogerman. We got Jason Hunter and Adam Dungan over here.
What?
It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, thanks y'all for stopping by.
Sounds better that way. Just saying.
Hey, have a great day, everybody. We're really, really glad you're listening.
Look forward
if
to
you wouldn't
seeing
mind,
you again.
get to send us a message, 314-260-4352. Just say hello. Love to hear from you. Thanks so much. Have a great one. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.